Yeah, today we're going to talk more about those transversal lines, but now we're going to talk about what happens when the lines that they intersect are parallel. So real quick notation point is when I want to tell you that two lines are parallel, I could put arrows on them like this. Sometimes we'll put two arrows on each. If we have a couple sets of parallel lines, that's how we'll differentiate between which two lines are parallel. But when you see lines or arrows like these two red arrows, that means that those two lines are parallel. And so when I have two parallel lines or more than that intersected by a transversal, what happens is I get two specific types or two specific angle measures formed. And I'd like to make this a little bit bigger. And so I'll ask you a lot, what do the angles look like? And so if I look at these angles, they're vertical angles, and they also look like they're the same measure. They also look like they're probably the same measure as those two angles. So I have four angles in this picture that are the exact same measure. You probably noticed that those two angles look the same as well. They're vertical angles. They look like they're the same measure. And these two look like they're the same measure as those as well, because they are. They look like they are. It's because they probably are the same measure. So in this picture, I have 8 angles, but only 2 different angle measures. So let's see an example of that. Here I have one angle that's 93 degrees. These two red arrows mean that those two lines are parallel. So what I'm going to end up with is an angle here that's 93, an angle here that's 93, and an angle here that's 93. You can kind of see a pattern here. These two across from each other are the same. These two across from each other are the same. It's a little less hard to tell that they're the same because 93 is really close to 90. And so from a couple lessons ago, we know that these two angles make a straight line, should add to 180. So that angle is 87. And so that makes these other 3 angles 87 as well. So my 2 lines are parallel, I have a transversal, and what I end up with is 8 angles that are either one angle measure or the other. They're either 93 or 87. So let's do this one. I have one that's 89. Here I see the double arrows, so they both have double arrows, so it means they're parallel. So that means that's going to be 89. And if I follow the pattern, top right is 89, and the one across from it is also 89. So the other angles should be supplementary to the ones I have, so they should add to 180, so they're all going to be 91 degrees. There you go. 2 parallel lines in a transversal. I have 8 angles, but they're only one of 2 angle measures, either 89 or 91 degrees. So I want you to give the video a pause. I want you to fill out all the missing angles here based on what we did on the last 2. So what you should have is 4 angles that measure 78 degrees and 4 angles that measure 102 degrees. So in the last lesson we talked about special angle pairs, and we still have those special angle pairs that exist when the 2 lines that are being intersected are parallel. But now we know more about them. So we have 3 of those angle pairs that create congruent angles. So let's look at one pair of alternate interior angles, that one and that one. And you might say just by looking at the picture that those 2 angles look exactly the same. And the last 3 problems we did, they would have had the same angle measure. That's because when 2 lines are parallel and they're intersected by a transversal, alternate interior angles are congruent. That means they're the same measure. The same is true about a pair of alternate exterior angles, and the same is true about a pair of corresponding angles. They look like they're the same size, and that's because they are. Those special angle pairs are always going to be congruent whenever the two lines being intersected are parallel. We also get supplementary angles. In the first three examples we did, we were taking the angle measure we knew and subtracting from 180 to get the other angle measure that would be in the picture, and that's because they're supplementary. So our special angle pairs that are supplementary are the same side ones. And you might remember that by saying same side supplementary. And so here I have two same side interior angles. I did different colors because they're different measures, but they would add up to 180. Same thing for same side exterior. I'll put two different colors because they're going to be different angle measures, but those two angles are going to add up to 180. So rather than filling out all of the angles to figure out what this angle question mark should be, we can decide what type of angle relationship we have, and then we can figure out, based on that relationship, how big should this angle be. So I have two parallel lines based on the red arrows. I have an exterior angle 66 degrees and another exterior angle that's question mark, and they're on alternate sides of the transversal. So these are alternate exterior angles. And so alternate exterior angles are the same. They're congruent. These angles should look like they should be the same, and that's because they are. They're both 66. Same idea here. This time I have one exterior angle that's 51 degrees, and now I have one interior angle. Remember that the interior of the picture is between the two lines being intersected. So in this case, between the two parallel lines is considered interior. They look like they're the same size. That's because they are. They're both corresponding angles, and so that angle question mark should be 51 degrees. Let's do one more together. This time I have two interior angles. They're both in between the parallel lines. They're on alternate sides of the transversal. And so they're alternate interior angles. And we just learned that alternate interior angles are the same size. They should look like they're the same size because they are 130 degrees. So why don't you go ahead and give this one a try. Find the measure of question mark, and then press play to find. So these are both interior angles. They're both on the same side of the transversal. That makes them same side interior and same side supplementary, so they should add to 180. So I subtracted 75 from 180 to find that question mark is 105 degrees. So I've got three questions for you here at the end of the lesson, and I'm going to let each question appear on the screen for a few seconds so that they're bigger, so it's easier for you to see. So find the measure of the indicated angle question mark for each of the three questions.